Hello everyone, today let's rate every large monster in Monster Hunter Wilds based on how edible I think they are. Someone posted about this on Reddit, but the idea was originally partially inspired by Backseat Game Dev's excellent video on Animal Crossing villager edibility, so go watch that. And by the fact that we don't have the cat granny making us food. I don't care about the villager meals or having furballs in my food. I want cat granny to make me munchies. Past Skip made a crucial mistake here. He forgot to mention that we will crown the top 3 least and most edible monsters at the end of this video, and we'll also cook them. Since I destroyed my TV in the last video, I'll be using this old projector screen to make my points. 2 things before we start. I will be ranking every monster in the game alphabetically, so there will be heavy spoilers. You have been warned. Also, this video is very subjective. Think of it like a tier list, but we're not putting them on a tier list, we're putting them in the oven at low heat for 2 hours. Let's start off with the rating system. Our arbitrary rating system consists of 5 almost completely made up metrics. Number 1, access. How dangerous is the monster to hunt? I will admit, there are a lot of people that have very, very strong opinions about difficulty in Monster Hunter games. I know that I probably have an easier time fighting the monsters in Wilds than a lot of other people who just joined in. So to rate difficulty seems a bit counterproductive based on like subjectivity. So I decided to rate them based on how the game rates them, i.e. how they classify it. So we have regular monsters, apex predators, raid fights, and then special monsters. So regular monsters get a score of 10, which I would consider probably pretty easy to fight. These are your Chatacabras, Quematrices, but also your Gypceros and Gravios. Then we got the apex predators, which get a score of 5. They are pretty tough, and during the story, the non-playable characters specifically tell you how difficult they are, but they're not the top of the food chain. Next up are raid fights like Jin Dahaad and Zoh Shia. That's about it, that's the end of the list. They get a score of 3, not just because they're more difficult than apex predators, but also because they are limited. It is complete and utter luck whether you actually see them. Lastly are special monsters. These aren't exactly defined in the story, but it includes Arkveld, Gore Magala, and Mizutsune. This one's subjective because I feel like these 3 are the most difficult, and they get a score of 0. The second metric is the consumable metric. How dangerous is the monster to actually prepare? This is best measured by volatile or toxic organs the monster uses during the fight. The best example for this metric IRL is Fulgur, the pufferfish dish. The next metric will be mass, so how much actually edible meat is there on the monster? More chunk equals more bite. Obvious, right? Well, we'll get to it. Next up is preparation. How easy is it to actually get to the meat? And lastly, but most definitely not least, is the most important metric, the SPO, which stands for Skip's personal opinion. Yeah, this one, it feels kind of self-explanatory. Right, so if you couldn't tell, I'll only cover the Wilds monster roster today, and only the big boys because I want this video out before Christmas. Alright, enough explaining, let's get into the video. Alright, monster number 1 is Ajarakan. Ajarakan, I forgot how to pronounce him, but it's this guy from the Everforge. Personally, I think this guy would give you explosive diarrhea. That's it. I'm giving him a 5 though, because there's a lot of meat on him. You can't tell me that it's all gonna give you explosive diarrhea, but he's probably really good for making like spicy food. These are very, very chunky dudes. So I imagine that there's a lot of mass on him. I gave him an 8 originally, but looking through the other monsters, I think it's fair to give him like more of a 6. And when it comes to preparation, they got turtle shells on their back and are used to really hot climates. So I imagine having to break off all of those scales is probably going to be really difficult. Gave him a solid 5 for that. Now for the SPO, thinking about how they got turtle shells on their back though kind of made me sad to think about. So I gave him a 2 in the SPO, which brings the total points up to 28 out of 50 points. Pretty solid start. Next up is the big boy. It's Arkveld. It's our first special monster. So he gets a straight up 0 in access, as we all know. I hope you've been paying attention. And honestly, I think this guy would just give you Dragon Blight if you ate him, which would be really annoying, but you just put some null berries in the dish as well and you'll be fine. There's probably a lot of sinew and like cartilage on him, but boy eats real good. Like he eats a lot of different monsters, so I bet he's got the muscle to prove it. So I'm giving him a 7 on mass. When it comes to preparation, Arkveld is everywhere. Could probably make spare ribs from his wings. I don't know. But the most important part, again, is the SPO. And let me tell you something. I will consume Arkveld's flesh while keeping intense eye contact with Nata. 10 out of 10. So total points, 29 out of 50. You can expect a couple low scores for the special monsters. Let's keep going. Next up, the Sand Dildo himself, Balahara. They're big worms. There's probably lots of meat. It's pretty easy, solid 10. Their description says that they're covered in fulgurite. Just scrape that off and you'll be golden. Just cut them up like cucumbers. What's weird to me is the description mentions that they secrete a mucus that emits light so they can see better in the dark or whatever, which means they have eyes. That's my SBO for this one. It gets a 3 out of it because I don't want to imagine this thing having eyes, which gives it a total of 42 points. All right, next on the list is Blangonga. When it comes to consumable danger, there's probably none. They're apes. I mean, sure, they can like breathe ice on you, but that really just means it refrigerates itself. For the mass, there's probably a good amount of muscle on them, but probably also a lot of blubber, like, you know, like fat. So it's not the biggest, but it will most definitely feed you. So for the SBO, I wrote monkey. The Chatacabra is the Chatacabra. What do you want for it's the Chatacabra? No, but for real, the sticky spit might make cooking a little bit difficult, so I gave it a 7 on preparation. But the real question I asked myself is, imagine how much more advanced the people of Kunafa would be if they hunted Chatacabra for their scales and adhesive spit. We're going for 45 out of 50 points for this one. This is strong contender for most edible. Right. Next up, Congalala. So this one's really weird. I personally wouldn't eat it, but depending on the diet, it might actually just be more or less difficult to prepare. Various descriptions say that it absorbs the elemental abilities of the food they consume, and they can consume poisonous mushrooms, mushrooms that could paralyze you, and like burning mushrooms that let it breathe fire. It might be a bit difficult depending on what environment you got it from. For mass, there's probably lots of fat, less bulk, too much hair, and just like contaminated meat. So for preparation, I just wrote you kind of need to steam the meat in frickin' deodorant first. So solid 3 on this one. And for the SBO, really just eat anything else. Just eat anything else. There's so much better out there. Don't eat the fart monkey. All right, next up is our boy Doshaguma. There's no elemental stuffs. Just don't get the defense down saliva on your food and you'll be good. Solid 10 on this one. It's a giant bear. Just get someone from Maine to make you this one. They eat bears all day long. You gotta shave him first too, but let's be honest, Hunter has probably already made like some gear out of him. In my personal opinion, just eat gummy bears instead, my guy. 36 points. No. Just fucking no. Don't. It's a walking cocoon that emits viral spores. Do not eat the emo dragon. 0 out of 50 points. All right, next up, Gravios. You might be starting to see a theme with this one, but sleep and fire glands. You probably have to do really, really well to get those cut off. But that's not the interesting part about it. My question for this one is, how much actually edible meat is there? Because it's probably less than you think. The guy is made out of straight up rocks, and that's like 90% of him. And even then, the wings are like really, really scrappy. Like there's not a lot on this guy. I do think that underneath they'd have like pretty tough and chewy tissue. I mean, it has to hold like a damn mountain worth of rocky scales, so that makes sense to me. 26 points. Next up is Guardian Ebony Odogaron. I'm just gonna call him Odogaron. I think this one's pretty easy. He doesn't really have like a lot of scales on him. I think he might be able to give you Dragon Blight as well, but that's about it. And it's mostly tough jerky. There's not a lot of meat on these hyperactive bones. And for preparing, I'd say it's pretty easy. Like just get the scales off and just don't cut yourself on his super sharp scales. I'll lump the SPO on this one in with the next monster because just wait for it. 30 out of 50 for Odogaron though. Next up is, again, same naming convention, Anjanath. Now this one's interesting because you might actually get electrocuted when you try and cut up certain parts, but on the other hand, there's enough meat to feed a whole village. The head is probably all cartilage though, because this guy got a big nose. So getting rid of that, making sure there's no electricity left is probably the most difficult thing. And it probably tastes like chicken. Wow, I'm original. Right, let's talk about guardian monsters real quick, because I'm not including guardian Doshaguma or like the other guardian subspecies in this. I'm just including Anjanath and Odogaron, who for some reason only have guardian variants in this game. And I also think that guardian monsters are kind of like the Syntho drones from like the Kim Possible movie, if anyone remembers that. They're probably just made out of like gross slop, and if you puncture a hole in them, they just kind of start gushing out. It's gross. It was a very traumatizing movie growing up. Anyway, 32 out of 50 points for the Anjanath. Right, next up, Gypceros. This is going to be another no, but I'm going to explain why. First off, he has poison glands, which we don't like one bit. But he also has an item called rubbery hide. And it's not just that his like skin is super rubbery. The best part is, I'd wager that most of him is just that rubbery hide. Like, it's just rubbery hide and cartilage. There's not a lot more on this guy. Lastly, Gypceros' hide has been used to make ship walls, so you probably don't want to eat it. He probably just tastes like tires. 21 out of 50. Next up is the Hirabami though. This one has ice glands, which might freeze your tongue or keep it refrigerated, but it also has like sharp spikes all over it. So there's little to no meat. It's all membrane, some claw, so it has to stay up in the air somehow. So I'm imagining that there's not a lot of like salvageable stuff on this guy. Also, all of those like spines and stuff probably require lots of handiwork because you gotta grate every single flap on this guy. For my personal thoughts, it's a flying pack of sardines. I think it tastes really good, but you'd have to like get rid of every single tiny little bone that's in this guy to actually make something cool out of him. 28 out of 50. Next up is the first raid monster. It's Jin Dahaad. This guy's probably really, really tough. I mean, aside from being like a raid monster and really, really difficult, you gotta get rid of all of the radiator spines along his back and then make sure to also not get frostbite. You kind of gotta heat it up proper without burning it. I feel like this one's just gonna refrigerate itself a little bit too much, but then also it's like a giant leviathan, so there's probably like a lot of meat. You need a whole team to get this big boy chopped up, but it keeps itself refrigerated, so it gets a 10 out of 10 for me. 30 out of 50 in total. Next up is Lala Barina. The issue with this one isn't the fact that it can paralyze you, it's there really isn't anything on him. I mean, yeah, it's a big monster, but it's mostly like fur and then like the long legs. So I kind of struggled with really wrapping my head around how you would prepare this. Like, you might like have to find a way to boil it whole like a lobster. Otherwise, I just imagine that if you cut up the legs, all of the stuff inside would just like go out like aloe vera leaves. Some cultures do eat tarantulas, but I'll be honest, I don't think that works on this scale because they like fry it up. 23 out of 50. A friend of mine actually had a recipe for this one. You tear the fur out, cut the legs to medallions, and just fry it on high heat with mushrooms. I don't know how, but she made it sound real delicious. So there's that. Take that as you will. Okay, next up, Mizutsune. Soap. I just wrote down soap. No, I'm just kidding. The soap is probably the most annoying thing. I'm thinking that the Mizutsune is like an eel, but it's covered in soap. So getting rid of that is going to be really difficult. But like this is a big leviathan. There's a good amount of stuff on this guy. He's a real big chunky guy. Getting rid of all of the soap would be real difficult. So I wrote down in my personal opinion, soap, which gives this guy 23 points. Next up, Nerscylla. It's another spider. This one actually has a poison and sleep sac, so it's probably not worth cutting it up, aside from the fact that it's even more terrifying than Lala Barina. So I legit just wrote down C, Lala Barina, for this one. Same thing here. It's an icky spider. I don't want to eat it. 23 out of 50. Now we're getting back into the more fun ones. We got new Udra. Cooking it all the way is probably really tough because it's like used to the heat, whereas like other monsters have tough hide. This is an octopus. I don't really know any octopuses that have tough armor scales or something, but it's a big octopus. I don't know if you've ever eaten octopus, but it's really delicious. Oil silt and fire sac probably don't mix very well when you try to prep this guy, but keeping to just the arms is probably the goal anyway. For my personal notes, I wrote down Takiyoki, 10 out of 10. So this guy gets a 35. Okay, next up, Quematrice. I'm gonna be real, guys. It's spicy KFC. I know the joke has been made before plenty of times, but it's fucking spicy KFC. You know it. I know it. I got a couple other monsters to go through, so we're just gonna go for spicy KFC on this one. 40 out of 50 points. The Rathian's tail spike is probably really difficult or annoying to get rid of because, like, it's full of poison. In some games, even after you cut off the tail, it can still poison you. So poison must be going through this guy's entire system, right? I do think this one isn't too shabby when it comes to the amount of meat that is there, but it's definitely not enough to feed a village. So it has tough scales, it has poison glands that could contaminate everything, which might make it tough to salvage anything. But, and this is my personal notes, you could feed your companions pink liver in Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, which is from the Rathian. Pink liver is canonically a delicacy, so 8 points for me on that one, which gives the Rathian 38. Next up is her husband, the Rathalos. Same one on this one. It has poison, granted in its like chicken legs, not in its tail, but they seem to be from the same genus, so I imagine that they're kind of similar. It has pretty tough hide. Same thing for like the amount of meat that there's on this one. It's not too shabby, but you could do a lot better. For my own notes, I wrote down this one should be edible. Because it's the Monster Hunter monster. Like, if Rathalos is not edible, then I'm quitting Monster Hunter forever. Anyway, 39 out of 50 points. Okay, second to last Apex monster, Rey Dau. I just wrote down Electric Boogaloo because that's what it is. I feel like this one would have a lot of electricity stored inside of it for a good while, so you kind of gotta cure it out to make sure the electricity gets out. But after that, there's probably a lot of meat on this guy. I think like a Rey Dau dish would probably make your tongue fuzzy, which could be like a fun, interesting way of going about it. 28 out of 50 points. I'm gonna be honest, this is another one where I'm not entirely sure what to think of it. It's a walking sack of poison, which is very much not muchos grandes. There's probably not a lot of meat on this guy. It is too much flabbiness, probably just too much poison. Maybe it's like a turkey. You can like carve the flabby bits off just to get like the regular chicken underneath. But like, hear me out. The guy looks like chewed bubblegum that got tossed in an oil leak. I don't know if he tastes particularly good. 17 out of 50. Last apex predator is Uth Duna. I wrote down big fish. There's a lot of fish on this guy. Like the hairs that make her big coat a thing are probably annoying to get rid of, but other than that, it's a fish. No comment. 42 points. The last out of 2 octopuses in the game, which I feel like is a shame, is Zhu Wu, which is just more takoyaki, this time without like oil bullshit on it. Like I feel like there's a good amount of meat on this one, but this guy's got a ton of spikes and teeth. Like his underside is essentially exclusively made out of teeth. Getting rid of that is probably going to be annoying, but making takoyaki is probably really easy. I'm really hungry. I just want to say that. 41 points. Next up, Yian Kut-Ku. Again, I don't really know what to say. Like he definitely has like a fire gland which may explode on your face if you try to cut it up, but what would you cut up? There's nothing on this guy. Yian Kut-Ku is a stick bug. Yeah, I just brought that meme back in 2025. Maybe it's kind of like storks. Like people used to eat storks, but there's not a lot of meat here. You could probably roast them, but there are better options, I feel like. So you'd have an easier time just using this shovel for a face as a plate. 23 points. And last but not least, we got Zoh Shia, final boss in the game. Probably shouldn't eat the crusty coconut shells that it wears on its first face, because I assume that stuff can explode like the wilk that it spawns in the arena. Also, there's huge amounts of like old grafted flesh underneath it all, which is a potential source for infinite food since apparently it can recover. I'm pretty sure that the recovery process is slowed when the thing keels over. So maybe you gotta like prep it really quickly, but there's a big problem with this one. I don't know if this is a fact, so I'm just like in my head canon. Zoh Shia has parts of Fatalis in its design, like the recover ability. You don't wear Fatalis skin because you'll go insane. You do not fuck with Fatalis. 0 out of 10. Don't eat it, which leaves the last monster on this list with 23 out of 50 points. Right, so that's all of them. We're not quite done yet. I want to look at which are the most and least edible monsters as well. Probably to nobody's surprise, the top 3 least edible monsters are, on third place, Rompopolo, the freaking bubblegum right off the tarmac. You don't want to eat that. Number 2 is Zoh Shia, because of the whole Rathalos thing, and again, you don't want to eat those coconuts. And on first place for least edible is Gore Magala. This one will give you more than just a tummy ache. Don't eat it. I don't care if his antennae look super delicious to you, like those fruity worms. Just don't. Anyway, let's move on to the top 3 most delicious monsters, which are on third place, Uth Duna, big boy. Lots of meat on this guy. I got really hungry during this video, but that one could maybe fill me up. On second place, we got Balahara, but pretty obviously, it's relatively easy to fight. It doesn't give you any elemental stuff, and I feel like you'd get a good amount of food out of it. And on number 1, drum rolls please, it's Chatacabra. It's the big toad from the first area. It's just the perfect mix of like difficulty to hunt, no dumb elemental stuff behind it, and it feeds you really well. So that's it, right? Well, you watched all the way to the end. So I've decided to cook you up the 3 most popular monsters. So here you go. The first one is Uth Duna sushi with tempered mud shrimps and fluffy egg.
So tasty!
For the Balahara, we go for the fried Balahara medallions, stewed in silled garlic and wild seed oil. Also potatoes and some salad, because y'all gotta eat healthy. And lastly, we got the Eastern honey glazed Chatacabra tongue with kunafa cheese and wild herbs. Bon appetit! These definitely still don't look as appetizing as the food that Cat Granny made for us. Please bring her back. Really, this entire video was just an excuse to like complain about Cat Granny not being back in Wilds. Yeah, that's it. Go eat your food. Bye. I didn't know where else to put this, so I put it at the very end. I was really shocked when the first video blew up as it did, so thanks so much for watching. This video was most definitely different to the first one, but if you like this type of content, then stick around. Probably gonna talk about more than just Monster Hunter. Anyway, have a nice day. Bye.